Hey, welcome back to What's Actually Happening. I am Maahi. If you caught episode 1, you know I got pretty real about stress, cortisol, and why your brain basically shuts down when life hits hard. Today, we are going deeper into the brain, and I promise this one starts with a road trip. So, a few weeks ago, my friend Gao was visiting me in Atlanta. Now, Gao lives in North Carolina. She is a DIY influencer. Yes, she is that friend who can literally build an entire media room from scratch with her own hands and make it look effortless on camera. Anyway, she had an event up in Ellijay, Georgia, and I tagged along for the drive. Beautiful mountain town, by the way. If you haven't been, go. On the drive back, we started talking about our third friend, Jo. Jo lives in Germany now. She's a brand new mom, and she's something else when it comes to memory. Like this woman is operating on a completely different level than the rest of us. So here's what sparked the whole conversation. A little while back, I sent both of them a collage, two pictures from a trip we all took together in Switzerland. Just a fun little throwback. You know how it is. I'm looking at it and I notice, wait, Joe and Gao are wearing the same color tops in both pics. So I point it out, and Joe goes, oh yes, we actually coordinated that day. Okay, cute. Makes sense. But then she goes, and actually on the day Gao was leaving Switzerland, we wore the same color tops too. And she didn't just say it, she went ahead and sent us a picture to prove it. Gao and I just stared at each other in the car. That trip was 5 years ago. I don't remember what I had breakfast on Tuesday. Gao doesn't remember either, but Joe remembered the exact matching outfits she and Gao were wearing on a random departure day half a decade ago in Switzerland and had the receipts. So we called her right there in the car on WhatsApp and we were like, Joe, how? How do you remember this stuff? And you know what she said? She laughed and said, I don't know. I only remember useless stuff. Useless. She called it useless. Meanwhile, Gao and I are sitting there genuinely impressed, slightly annoyed, of course, and a little concerned about our own memories. So I asked her, Joe, do you remember things like this about everyone or just us? She got a little quiet and then she said something that really stuck with me. She said, only the people that matter to me the most. I had to just sit with that for a second. Her brain isn't storing everything, it's choosing, revisiting certain memories, and it's prioritizing. And the people she loves most, they get the premier storage plan. But it gets better. While we are on the call, I mentioned that I finally landed a job. As you all know from my previous episode, I got let go from my first firm. And Joe goes quiet for a second and then says, wait, you know what's funny? You got your last job when all three of us were hanging out at Gao's house. In her media room, the one she built herself, by the way. Only Gao could do that. I remember you got the email right there, which was 3 years ago. She was right. I had completely forgotten that. But Joe had filed it away somewhere in that brain of hers like it was important data. Like we were important data. And that's when it hit me. What is actually happening in her brain? Why can some people remember things with such vivid detail while the rest of us struggle to remember where we put our keys 20 minutes ago? Now, here's where it gets interesting for me personally. When I was doing my master's at Georgia Tech, I took a course called Introduction to Cognitive Science. It's part of their interactive intelligence program, and in the very first few lessons, we dove into the human brain, what it is, how it works. And here's the wild part: how artificial intelligence was actually modeled and evolved based on the human brain. Think about that for a second. The most sophisticated technology humanity has ever created was inspired by 3 pounds of tissue sitting inside your skull. The human brain is the most complex structure known to exist in the universe. It has roughly 86 billion neurons, each one connected to thousands of others. The total number of connections, called synapses, is estimated to be around 100 trillion. To put that in perspective, there are fewer stars in the Milky Way galaxy than there are synaptic connections in your brain. Let that sink in. And yet, with all that power, Jo still calls her memory useless stuff. But I can't. Oh, and before we go deeper, can we just take a moment for the octopus? Because if you think the human brain is wild, meet the octopus, a beautiful, intelligent creature. An octopus doesn't have one brain, it has 9. Yes, 9. One central brain and then 8 additional mini brains, one in each arm. Each arm can actually think and act independently without waiting for instructions from the central brain. So while you're sitting there forgetting where you put your keys, an octopus has 8 arms, each making their own decisions simultaneously. Nature really said, let me just show off with this one. Okay, back to us humans. So what is actually happening in Joe's brain? Memory is not one single thing. Your brain actually has multiple types of memory working at the same time. There is short-term memory, which is basically your brain's notepad. It holds information for a few seconds to a few minutes. Most of what we experience every day gets scribbled on that notepad and then erased. Then there is long-term memory. This is where things get interesting. Long-term memory is divided into 2 main types. There is explicit memory, things you consciously remember, like facts, events, experiences. And there is implicit memory, things your body just knows how to do without thinking, like riding a bike or typing on a keyboard. Now, here is the key question. Why does Joe's brain hold on to explicit memories so well while most of us forget them? Researchers have found that memory retention comes down to a few things. First, emotional connection. The brain prioritizes memories that have an emotional weight to them. That departure day in Switzerland? For Jo, it wasn't just a random day. It was the day her friends were leaving. There was emotion attached to it. So her brain flagged it as important and stored it deeper. And remember what she said? She only remembers the people that matter most. That's not just poetic. That's literally how the brain works. Second, attention. People with strong memories tend to be highly present in moments. They're not half scrolling their phone while something is happening. They are actually there, fully, and the brain rewards that presence by holding on to the details. Third, some people just have a naturally higher capacity for what scientists call episodic memory. That's the ability to mentally replay past experiences almost like a video. These people don't just remember that something happened. They remember how it felt, what people were wearing, what the light looked like. For a classic episodic memory superstar example, my friend Joe. There is actually a condition called highly superior autobiographical memory, or HSAM, HSAM, where people can recall almost every single day of their life in extraordinary detail. Researchers are still studying exactly why this happens. but it seems to involve differences in how certain brain regions, particularly the hippocampus, process and store experiences. Now, I'm not saying Joe has HSAM, but I am saying her hippocampus is out here doing the Lord's work while mine is clearly on vacation. So, what can the rest of us actually do to improve our memory? Because not all of us are blessed with Joe's brain. Here is what the science actually says. First, sleep. During deep sleep, your brain actively consolidates memories, transferring information from short-term storage in the hippocampus to the long-term storage in the cortex. Without enough sleep, your brain literally struggles to hold on to new information. So if you're staying up doom scrolling at midnight, and I know I'm guilty of this, and you're actively erasing memories your brain was trying to save. Second, exercise. Research has shown that aerobic exercise actually increases the size of the hippocampus, your brain's memory hub. Even a 30-minute walk makes a difference. Your brain is not just sitting in your skull doing nothing while you work out. It's growing. Third, engage your senses. The more neural connections a memory has to different regions of the brain, the more distinctive and easier it is to recall. So, when you're in a moment you want to remember, really be there. Notice the sounds, the smells, the details. The more senses you engage, the stronger that memory gets. Fourth, spaced repetition. If you want to remember something, don't try to cram it all at once. Spacing out your learning over time is far more effective than trying to absorb everything in one sitting. This is actually something we studied in cognitive science at Georgia Tech. The brain learns better in intervals, not marathons. And fifth, emotional connection. This one ties back to my friend Joe. The strongest memories are the ones attached to feelings, to people, to moments that meant something. You can't manufacture that, but you can be more present in the moments that matter. And maybe that's the whole point. The strongest memories aren't the ones we try to remember. They are the ones that meant something, the ones tied to people, to places, to moments that mattered, even when we didn't know they mattered at that time. Joe's brain isn't doing anything weird. It's just paying attention to the right people in the right moments in a way most of us forgot how to do. I'm Maahi. Thanks for listening to What's Actually Happening. We're just getting started with the brain. Episode 3 is going to go deeper. Why do some brains function better than the others? What slows your brain down? And what you can actually do about it. See you then.